Welcome to the Wholeness and Wellness podcast. I'm your host, Megan Toops, founder of Libra Living Wellness Limited. And this is episode number 12 called Nurturing Nature, Rooting Ourselves in the Healing Power of Nature. And my guest today with me that we're going to be talking about this is Heather Fraser. Welcome, Heather. I met you, I don't remember now. It's like last year was a blur. So, but I've definitely known you, I would say almost a year now or over a little over a year.
I think over a year or
Um,
so, absolutely.
yeah,
I talked to
yeah.
you actually when you were thinking of starting your business, and
Okay.
so it might have been a couple of years ago that we met
Yeah,
for
that's
coffee.
crazy. Yeah,
Yes, it
time
is.
flies. Time flies by
Oh,
very
too
quickly.
fast, too fast.
Um, but yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what it is that you do?
Sure. So I retired a few years ago from the city of Moncton. I worked for the city of Moncton for over 30 years. And so when I retired, I wasn't quite ready to finish many of the projects that I had started when I worked for the city. So I started a company called Explore Nature's Bounty. And it really is about connecting people to nature and the outside world through experiences, seasonal events, really looking at the natural health and wellness piece is really where my passion and expertise lies.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. I'm excited. I need to go to I've been kind of like a hermit this past year with doing business stuff, but I need to go to one of your events. I almost made it to one. I can't remember what thing it was. I think it was for some kind of business networking or connecting event, and I missed out on it, but they
There's a
all
couple
seem so
coming up that I'll
interesting.
share with you.
Okay, good, good, good. I'm
Yes,
excited.
yes,
Awesome.
yes.
Um, so that's great. I also have the guests come on when they come on to say either a fun fact or something interesting about yourself that you'd like to share.
So the people that maybe are local would know that I was a maple producer for 25
Mm,
years when I worked for the city of Moncton. I ran the city of Moncton Sugar Camp and
okay.
provided tours by season. But you might not know that I'm a beekeeper. So I actually
Okay.
followed in the kind of the sweet history of, maple is one, but bees. And I guess maybe another fun fact is that in every walk that I do, whether it's with a group or with students or whatever, especially in the spring and summer, when I look down into a bed of clover, I can find you a 4, 5, or 6 leaf clover. And it's a
Wow,
special
that's
talent, I think, that's been handed down
mm,
from my grandfather, my great grandfather, and now my dad taught me how to be able to spot them. And I find them for everyone. I have thousands of them laminated. I always give one out at a
cool.
tour when I do my tours so that you can put it in your wallet and hopefully it'll bring you some luck.
I love that. That's cool. That's really neat. That's
Mm.
awesome. Thanks. Thanks for sharing. Um, so today we're talking about, nurturing nature, which I feel like that's what you're all about, right? And that's what
Yes.
you do. And I like I live, in the country. I moved to the country probably, I don't know, probably over 6 years ago. And after living in the city, I gradually got further and further out into the country. And people are like, would you ever move back to the city? And I'm like, absolutely not, because I love having the land. I love having the nature to just walk outside, take a break from working at my computer and just kind of experience nature. Now, for me, coming from Louisiana, we always had lots of sun. I didn't really see the seasons changing like I do here in Canada. So that was a kind of a new nature thing for me to experience. Which, there's a lot of beauty, I think, in that, in the changing of seasons. Like, especially like exactly in the middle of those changing of seasons, like like the first snowfall, it's just very like quiet and peaceful, right? So I've really learned to kind of, I think, appreciate nature more, living out here I've gotten more comfortable with things that I wasn't as comfortable as a child. I was more afraid of. But I feel like I've kind of learned to kind of be, I guess, with nature, kind of let it
And
do
I
its
think that's
thing.
the beauty of the spring season when we think of the
Yeah,
season that we're currently in, right? It is all about rebirth, renewal, regeneration.
yeah.
And and so as the seasons change, of course, there's a different appreciation. And what we will be coming into in the next week or so, as the forest floor warms up, we will start to see those wildflowers, starting
Mm,
to emerge. We'll start to see the buds on the trees bursting and the new growth starting so that the trees can
yeah.
show that they've survived another winter, in the hardwoods, all the leaves coming out. So we're really in
Mm,
that tipping point from being kind of dormant in the winter to becoming
yeah.
alive, and not just nature, but us ourselves. Many
Yeah.
people do not. I mean, I can honestly say that I am outdoors 365 days a year, no matter what the weather, what the temperature. Some days I might be longer than others because I love being outside, but there is
Hmm.
something health-wise about being outside, even if it's only for a short time for your health and wellness. There's no question. It is, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, what the benefits of nature are, but
Yes.
definitely the seasonal changes are what's exciting this time of year, because we're going to see a big change from winter coming into summer.
Yes, I love that. And you kind of already, started that talk about the importance of nature in relation to our wellness. But one kind of going back to one thing you said, even ourselves during the springtime, we're kind of in this period of like uh, new
Mhm.
starting anew. I've definitely been feeling that for myself. Like it's kind of weird how things just happened at that time. But I really feel that
Mhm.
in line with those seasons changing. So yeah, let's dive in more and talk about that importance of nature in relation to wellness, how it affects us and our wellness in positive ways. I know sometimes for me, going back to again saying that I was used to lots of sun in Louisiana. So coming to Canada and experiencing the season changing and kind of the period of a little bit darkness, like because
Mhm.
the sun, like we have more darkness here and it's more noticeable in the winter time. So I definitely would say I have experienced seasonal depression before. So that
Mhm.
was something interesting to kind of go through. But a friend recently, we had a conversation, and I think she shared this on the podcast, was that even in wintertime, and we'll talk about this more, but I just want to share this point. Even in wintertime, she would bundle up, get dressed, and still go outside. And
Absolutely.
it still was very healing for her, even though, it's cold outside. Like sometimes she said that would just kind of fade away, and she would just kind of find this peaceful moment and kind of I think we talked about being mindful and things like that.
Mhm.
And she would have just like these moments of clarity because she was just outside in nature, kind of surrounded. I think there was this little canopy place she would go to that was under a tree where it was just really peaceful for her.
Mhm.
So yeah, let's dive into
Yeah,
more of that
so
and
when you said that, it sparked something in me, and you're right. And when you think about it, everything works together, Megan. So, nature works together with the seasonal shift, which works together with the temperatures, which works together with our longer days of sunshine. So, as we enter, we are in spring and we're getting closer to summer, our days are becoming longer. And for the people that don't necessarily, get outside as much in the winter because of it being dark, at supper time, it's going to now be light until, 10 o'clock at night. So it gives a lot of people, and it's sunrise at 5:30 in the morning. So our days of light are going to be longer than our nights of dark. So that really, for people that maybe have mood swings, that definitely will change as there's more light. Whether it's sunshine or cloud or whatever, that just gives people sometimes a boost, is to have that longer day of light.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely noticed that for me. Like it's I love the sun, first of all. I just love it.
yeah,
It gives me more of a boost. It's that vitamin natural vitamin D
indeed,
to get,
absolutely.
right? So,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah,
Um but yeah, like I just and we've already been talking about it and how nature relates to wellness and like I feel it, like I feel very affected by even the weather. Like if it's rainy one day. Now sometimes not some rain days it feels fine, but some like really bad days I feel down and I'm just like, okay, I just want to hibernate. I have no motivation to do anything. So I find sometimes more challenging to focus on my work on those days. So
yes.
yeah.
And you know what's funny though, and when you say that, it it makes me think that, we walk, right? We're out. I mean, again, I'm out, and there's a walking group on Thursday mornings, and we've had, probably 5, 6 mornings on a Thursday that it's been raining. And what's beautiful about being outside in nature in the rain, I mean, yes, you wear a raincoat or you have an umbrella, but even though it's dreary, the smells, and that's the one thing I want to touch on
Mm,
with being in nature every day,
yeah.
is you're using all your senses. So you're listening to the birds. You don't have, earphones in, no earbuds. You're
No.
listening to the birds, you're watching, you're kind of aware of what's around you, and the smells, either during a
Mm,
rain or after a rain are so different than a clear
yeah.
sunny day. So I'm very much in touch with using all my senses, and anybody that is
Mm,
with me when we're out and about, it's using that and noticing and recognizing the difference between a sunny day versus a rainy day, and a windy day is even more fun if you happen to be in a softwood stand, because the softwood trees, they're rooted on the surface of the ground, so you can literally
okay.
stand on their roots and you're moving in the wind, and it's like, okay, this, some people might think this is scary, but I'm thinking, you know what, this is calming. This is taking away
Mm,
whatever bad mood I might have been in, and I'm just,
yes.
I'm
I
flowing
like
with the
it.
trees, so I'm going with the
Yeah.
flow is what I call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I do, like you mentioned the sounds. And that's why I love living out here because we have so many different birds and I
Hmm.
love listening to them. And we've recently had 4 rabbits hopping around the house like consistently. So we've been kind of just like watching them. So, and it's been kind of nice. Like, I mean, we used to have a dog. So obviously we didn't get to see the rabbits as much because the dog would scare it away. But now we're kind of enjoying, something different, right? Like
Hmm.
we're noticing different wildlife come a little closer and
Hmm.
kind of be a part, and we kind of just watch and observe, and I really like that because it again it makes us kind of pause and have those
Hmm.
pause moments where we're not worrying about this or that or what we have to do tomorrow, but we're just being present in
In
the
the moment.
moment
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
just
it's
like
very
taking
important.
it all in. And that to me is like what being in nature. And for me, I'd like to get better with even going outside when the weather isn't super great,
Yes.
and exploring,
Hmm.
those different things. And again, still having those pause moments, um,
Hmm.
in different kind of
And
weather scenarios.
Megan, some of the things you learn, that you wouldn't necessarily think about when you're out on a rainy day, in the summer, right? And you're walking, or you get out and meet with a friend, and halfway through the trail it starts to rain. But what you learn very quickly is, oh, I might stand under the canopy of a big maple, and guess what?
Yeah.
It's not raining under here. And then you look down and there's a squirrel, or there's so, and it's like, oh, and look how dry it is under here. Well, duh, this is where I would bring my tea. If I had
Yeah.
my tea or I want to have a snack, I would take that sit spot here and I would listen to the droplets on the leaves and take that as a calming as I drink my tea and say, where would I rather be? Yeah, I could be in my house looking at the rain, or I could be
Yeah.
sitting here watching what's scurrying on the floor, having my tea and realizing, wow, it's not that bad out here. It's actually quite
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. I love that. I
Yeah.
love it. Um, Which, so yeah, our next kind of thing, our point to bring up, and maybe I've kind of touched on it a little bit, but barriers to connecting with nature, people that may struggle to get outside. Again, like I mentioned, when the weather isn't as nice, I find it
Mhm.
harder to kind of be outside, especially on super windy days. For some reason, it's so windy at our house, and I told my partner, I said, we need to get some wind turbines here because we would be set for life. Like, for power. Um, and just like, kind of talking about that more where people may struggle. Like, I
Mhm.
know, like I said, I live in the country, so I can literally walk outside my backyard, be in nature completely. Uh, but, people that live in the city, it might take a little bit more effort, like to go to a
Mhm.
park or to go outside the city. But yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, or maybe there's some simple ways that people can kind of bring that into their daily life, even if they don't live in the country.
Yeah, and I think some people, if we look at all the condos and the apartment buildings that are
Mm.
going up, most of those have a deck, so you can, yes, you might hear traffic, and so on a deck, but you're still able to get that fresh air, depending on where you're situated on the deck. But I'm thinking even people, that are used to being inside to have their coffee in the morning, like just go out your deck,
Mm.
sit
Yeah.
outside on your deck and have your tea. It's a different perspective. Yes, some people are used to watching the news, and that's great. But just maybe one morning a week, just sit on your deck and have your tea or have your coffee and notice
Yep.
what you notice. And even people in condos and apartments will watch those seasonal changes. They'll see the leaves starting to come on the tree. They'll see the pollen starting to be on people's cars
Yeah.
if they have allergies. So even at that type of distance, they can still have and feel, that connection with nature. And what I see people doing, which I love, is people are in that scenario and say, I would like to grow my own food. So they've got the
Mm.
little deck and they have little pots that you'll see them put tomatoes in, they'll put different things in, and sometimes it's flowers too. And then that beauty is, wait a minute, there could be butterflies, there could be bees,
Yeah.
hummingbirds coming to those flowers. So even if you don't have, the will to, to get outside and explore or go on a trail, you can almost make your little mini oasis right
Yeah.
on your own little patio and have food
Yeah.
and have, flowers that can bring you joy and maybe have some wildlife that stop by on their way for the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, that's a great, yeah. And I do know people like who kind of like you said have like their own little kind of garden on their deck. Even if
Yes.
they're in the city, they're still able to kind of
Yes.
do some things with plants and stuff. So that's
Yeah,
really
and there was
awesome.
one there was one lady that I know very well, and she had a small deck, but she asked at the front of the building that had like pillars if she could
Mhm.
put potted beans that kind of like are the viney kind of beans, and she said
Yeah.
it'll, because they were just white pillars. And so anyway, the owner said, well, sure, like I don't see why not. And literally people from the seniors complex would come down and sit, and some of them would stop, and pick some beans, and it wasn't just for her, and they flourished because they were in the sunshine, but they were underneath, so
Nice.
when it rained, it didn't
That's
totally rain, and
cool.
it become a gathering space. So
Yeah.
something where she thought, I need extra room to grow what I love to eat, and I love to eat them raw, all of a sudden became kind of a social place where people would bring, their lawn chair, they'd pick a bean, they'd have their tea. And I thought, like, that's genius.
That's
It
cool.
keeps the conversations going for people that might be, more introverted and lonely. So you never know what
Yeah.
one gesture from one person could have an impact on others around them.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of going into that a little bit more too is, we're talking about nurturing nature and how it works so well for our wellness, but
Mhm.
how there's lots of healing power, not just, being in nature. Like I said, a lot of
Mhm.
times it is a feeling of calm, when you're in nature and just having those pause moments, it kind of gives you that reboot. And also the sun, that's great getting that.
Yeah.
But there's lots, and I know you're kind of into this as well is there's lots of healing properties in nature,
Yes.
not just physically being in nature, but all the different herbs
It's the
as
bounty.
well.
It's the bounty.
Yeah.
So the bounty and where Explore Nature's bounty comes from is that I'm an avid forager. I've been foraging probably all my life, even as a little person with my grandfather. We were picking, strawberries on our property. We have property in back of Poley Mountain. So it was ingrained in me at a very young age to, be outside, but also use what Mother Nature provides. And I mean, I was taught by my grandfather, my grandmother was a teacher, and it was very much about we use products from Mother Nature, but we use them sustainably. So we take
Yeah.
what we need, we use what grows by season. And so part of what I do with people is connect them at the plant stage first, which will be coming soon. But then let's look when those plants berry. What are they bearing for fruit? And then what does that fruit have that could be good for your body? So for instance, like dandelions are going to be coming out soon. My bees love the dandelions. I love the dandelions too because I make a dandelion jelly, and so the different jellies and teas and things that you can make from nature, they all have natural vitamins and minerals in them that you can use for your natural health and wellness. And I'm an advocate for when I do my tours, if we see something that's edible, I get the people to try it, like wintergreen, the leaves of wintergreen, you can bend and you can chew, and it tastes like mint. You can make a tea out of that that's high in vitamin A and vitamin C. And I make a lot of mine and I freeze them and have them in the winter when the weather is not as nice to be out, and always nice to have a nice wild tea. But my whole point in that is that there's bounty around us, and to learn what that bounty is and how we can use it ourselves. And I love to say that, nature is our playground, but it's also our pharmacy at the end of the
Mm,
day. And
yes.
if we can use that, because I have friends that are on a lot of different pills for a lot of different things. And then I'll find something and I'll say, oh, you're taking that iron pill, but the seeds from plantain is got the highest iron of any plant. And I just sprinkle a little, on my smoothie or in my yogurt. I don't need, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to say anything like that, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying there are so many things that are natural that can help
Yes.
you, physically, but then keep you connected to the land. So I think that's where, again, my passion comes from.
Yes. And I love that because I'm all about wellness first of all, but I love finding natural ways versus taking,
Yeah,
pills. I mean, there is a lot of herb-based pills nowadays, so
there
that's
is.
fantastic.
Yeah,
But
it
I
is.
love the whole natural, getting the nutrients that we need naturally as without all the fillers and different things. So, I love that because yeah,
And
I think I've
know,
definitely
it
tried some of
becomes
your.
kind of, Megan, a sense of pride too, right? When you can be
Hmm,
out and knowing, or working with people that are wanting to know what grows, in their backyard or what grows in their forest or so on. But it becomes a sense of pride too to be able to feel the benefits that come from natural
yeah,
products, and it's like anything. It's you go slow and you do what's best for you. But I think there's really starting to see since COVID this whole umbrella of self-care, of people really
yes,
wanting to, be out in nature. Maybe it is photography, maybe it is something else, maybe it is doing what I do, but it really is them wanting to take care of them and be healthy naturally instead of, like you say, taking something over the counter. What could my option be more on the holistic natural side of things?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Something last thing is maybe if you could share a personal story or moment when nature brought you healing or a different perspective to you.
Well, and I can just tell you yesterday or Tuesday, I was out with a group. We're doing the 50 Amazing Places. It's a challenge that we're doing across the UNESCO designation, which is all the way from Sackville, New Brunswick to St. Martin's and every little hidden gem in
Okay.
behind. And I had a group. And so I've got a little spot on my hand that I've had. It's been dry, I don't know, all summer or all winter, I mean. And so there's a tree. It's called a balsam fir. It's what we would use for a Christmas tree, but it has little blisters on it. And I'm sure as a kid you poked those little blisters and there was a little bit of sap that came out. but that sap is actually what we call nature's Band-Aid. So I put some on my little thing that wasn't healing. My skin was dry. There was another lady that had gotten a big road rash from biking on her arm, and she put some on that. And I said, my whole message was, yes, you can put a Band-Aid and you can put different types of salves, but this is what this does. It will heal that. It'll stop the blood. So I love being able to use things from the
Yeah.
forest that has that healing. And plus it smells like a Christmas tree. So you're going to actually smell quite nice if you happen to put it on. So I like sharing those little healing moments, like when you happen to be out
Yeah.
with a group. Here's something simple, little, you won't forget it. You'll look for that tree again. And
Yeah.
I have little capsules in all my backpacks so that I always carry it with me in case somebody needs it along the trail.
Yeah. That's cool. That's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Like I'm trying to think. I use some kind of natural salve. Like I bought it. It was like in a tube,
Yep.
but it was I
Yep.
can't remember what it is. It calendula or calendula
Calendula.
something?
Calendula.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I used that.
Yep.
I
Yep.
had like surgery and I had a scar. So once it was finally, closed up,
Nice.
I
Yes.
used that and I was like, I feel like it helped it a lot not be so bad. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
it's those
cool.
healing powers that certain trees carry, and you're not hurting the tree by, busting the blisters. They'll heal over in more sap and they'll produce more sap. So you're not taking anything from, and there's millions of them on the tree and you're only taking,
Yeah.
a few. But it's just nice to know those little hidden gems when you happen to be out,
Yeah.
if you need something that and there's different things by seasons, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Well, that's great. We're pretty close to our time here. But yeah, I want to share, with everyone, like I'm going to share your contact information so,
Sure.
that people know where to go to join in these tours that you do as well, because I think that would be so exciting and also informative
Yeah.
as well, because I've been trying to get in more into nature and learning different things herb wise. So I think
Mhm.
that's very interesting. And I think, it's good for people to know that too, who are just in nature, to know what different things are too, like the good and the bad,
Yes, of
right?
course, of course, of course. And it helps again with everybody has a curious spirit, right? And everybody's
Hmm.
at maybe a different level in their comfort in nature. So really it is, getting more comfortable knowing, I'm with women a lot of that walk trails every day, the same trail, and they never notice anything. They don't hear any birds,
Hmm.
whatever. So it's whatever each person likes. But I will tell you,
Yeah.
I have two things that are coming up. One on May 6th, which is coming up not that far away. It's through Business Professional Women's Development in Moncton, so it's BPW Moncton, and it'll
Hmm.
be an evening event at and I can share the poster with you. It's at the Tankville School, but it's a nurturing in nature. So we're going to have
Okay.
a session inside, and then we'll go out on the trail, and we'll make that connection with people in nature. And then there'll be another one on August 10th with the Southeast Regional Service Commission. So that'll be
Okay.
with
Yeah.
newcomers and connectors again. And this one we're going to do in Salisbury at Wilson's Marsh. It's
Okay. Nice.
we did Irish Town last summer, and it was a huge hit. So we're going to go to Salisbury and do the beautiful trail along the marsh and the Petitcodiac River. So there'll be a lot of new things to explore there. And you
Awesome.
can you can check out on Facebook. There's a private group and a public group. You'll see the posters coming out for the different seasonal events that will be coming on, and they'll be across the landscape in New Brunswick. And I do some in Nova Scotia and PEI too, but there'll be some
Okay.
that'll be close here. Yes.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Awesome. 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 Well, thank you for sharing that.
Oh, and thank you.
And thank you for being on today's episode as a guest and talking about nature. Like, I think it's probably perfect time to do it too, like, because
It
it's,
is. The timing is
everything,
key. You're right
it
on.
just
The
kind
timing is
of
very
worked
good.
out perfectly. I find that happen quite a few times with my podcast episodes. So,
Nice.
but yes, thank you again for joining in, and thanks to everyone who tunes into this episode. And I usually ask the guests to promote anything that they want to promote, but you already plugged that in. So I'm really
Sure.
excited, and we'll share your contact information and your social media pages so that people can join in these tours and find out more as well.
Perfect. I would love that. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. Thanks again, everyone. Please subscribe, follow, and like. And until next time.
And remember, get outside. Nature is healthy. That's my brand. Thank you so much, Megan. See you later.
Hey.
Bye bye.